Live.
Hey.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are back with another edition of 10 Years of Ethereum. Today, we are joined with an esteemed guest. Our guest today is Dylan from a game that took crypto by storm. Crypto, the game, was all anyone was talking about in the crypto space for a period of time. And I'm just delighted to have
Yes.
Dylan on over here. Dylan brings such a pedigree of experience outside crypto that he's putting into crypto, just raising the floor, raising the bar of what we should expect about products, games, gamification, communities, community building, so many things that Dylan has come in and just completely upset the apple cart. Dylan is one of those top tier guests who's going to be spitting knowledge for the
Okay.
next
That's
hour.
good. That's good.
This is like the
so,
best episode on me.
It's 10 years of Ethereum, not 10 years of Dylan.
Well, yeah.
welcome,
What's up?
Dylan. Welcome,
Thanks so
Dylan. Thank
much.
you so much for being here.
Great to be here. Thanks for the intro. That was amazing.
Just a little background. Like literally, the moment I said I wanted to 10 use of Ethereum, and I had a hint of like, yes, I'm doing it. Dylan, you were literally the first person I reached out outside of Ethereum Foundation. I was like, I need to get you because at that time, like I was literally coming out of the high of crypto the game, and I'm like, this is craziness. Like, oh my God, those 10 days is a blur. So. Anyways, want to hear the background? Tell me everything that you want to talk about yourself for like in the from the intro, and then we'll jump in with more question.
Yeah, I mean, to exactly your point, that crypto the game is kind of this like insane 10-day, 24/7 interactive survival reality show. It's an idea that I've had honestly since childhood. Long before there was a crypto component, and I've pitched it internally everywhere I've worked, and finally sat down to build it almost 2 years ago, which is crazy with a couple of buddies, Ty and Brian, who are equally as esteemed and talented as I. Yeah, we just wrapped our third season in March, which I think is the one you are referencing. And it was incredibly successful. And for those of you that are listening and aren't familiar with CTG, basically every single day over the course of 10 days follows the same exact format of everyone's assigned to one of 10 tribes on day one. Every single morning, there's a different immunity challenge. So think classic arcade games or crypto puzzles or digital scavenger hunts. The winner of those challenges gets immunity. Everyone else votes each other out from within their tribe, and the last person standing wins the pot. And Ted Not Lasso, who I think you both are familiar with, ended up winning season 3 by one single vote. It was incredibly,
So close. Last
incredibly
year's
close.
week.
It was wild. And yeah, she won 71.6 ETH, which is close to a couple $100,000.
That is super cool. So, like, I want to go a little bit back in the past and say that, like, what was your introduction to crypto? Like, I want to start with that a little bit, and even if you want to go a little bit before that as well, I want to hear that story.
Sure.
When you heard the crypto or Ethereum as a news, like, hey, this is a technology like this. Like, what was your initial impression, and how do you digested that?
Yeah, so I was living in San Francisco and working in tech in 2016, 2017-ish. And trying to think of the first time I heard of it. I think the person that I sat next to at Postmates where I worked had a CryptoKitty, and
Oh,
it was on his laptop. And I don't know, it was kind of like that like 2017 bull market was probably the first time I like bought and sold Bitcoin and ETH. I did so on Coinbase. And because of the like centralized exchange experience of Coinbase, I thought it was pretty easy. Fund your account, you buy, you sell. I sold all of my Bitcoin and ETH when I doubled my money and thought I was like a genius. I'm the next Warren Buffett. I think ETH was like $100 at the time.
yeah.
So we don't talk about those potential gains. But I don't know. I've kind of always been in like an obsessive collector of things. I grew up collecting Beanie Babies and Pokemon cards and baseball autographs and memorabilia. And I collect art now. And I've always been this like crazy, literally like I just opened a pack of like vintage basketball cards right before this. And I think that like the first time I minted an NFT, this is probably like fast forward to like 2021 ish. And like minted it, but it was like I didn't know what I got. It was that like pre-reveal phase, and post-reveal, seeing what I got and checking the rarity and if it was worth anything. It was like the only time that like opening a pack of cards was, and that experience was like mimicked on the internet, and that was kind of my first like holy shit moment. And like this is like a very fun experience, and that's kind of when I like realized that crypto just like makes the internet more fun. So yeah.
Wow. Do you remember the NFT you bought?
It was Invisible Friends.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Of course.
Yeah.
It was funny, but like it was a good one actually. The art was really good.
Yeah. I somehow was on the whitelist for I think it was like WAGMI Interfaces or something.
Yeah.
It was like very buzzy, and I was like just connected with the founders on Twitter. They ended up never releasing. They kind of like shut down right before the mint, but because of that, I won an Invisible Friends whitelist spot from Interfaces. So yeah, I mean, it was a wild time, but. I loved my invisible friend. He was like, dribbling a basketball is a perfect fit.
No, that's pretty amazing. So fast forwarding a little bit, and like, is crypto the game your first experiment in crypto, like building wise, or have you built anything before that?
So first time founder with Crypto the Game, but before CTG, I worked at a startup called Party Round, which
Mhm.
was a fundraising tool for founders. Think like Venmo or Cash App for safe financing. And I ran marketing there, and we did these kind of like monthly drops that were targeted towards tech Twitter and founders and kind of the VC community. And the first drop was this project called Helpful VCs, which was an NFT project. It was like punk inspired PFPs of like the most famous VCs on Twitter. A couple folks like Packy McCormick actually used his Helpful VC NFT as his PFP for a while. I think if you go on helpfulvcs.com or if you Google Helpful VCs Party Round, you should be able to see the drop. But the the goal with that drop was basically like to drive awareness of Party Round, the fundraising tool. And the
Mm.
only way that these VCs could like claim their NFT of their likeness was by tweeting about Party Round. So it had that kind of like pre-populated
Liability.
tweet functionality that we reused for CTG. I'm trying to think what other crypto drops we did at Party Round. We did what I think is like the first on-chain ad campaign, which is before you could like hide NFTs from your like OpenSea profile. We actually airdropped like junk mail Party Round NFTs to a bunch of like big name and notable wallets. Now there's like
Mhm.
so much spam, but there was a very brief moment in time where like if you went to, I don't know, Brian Armstrong's wallet, you would see like a Party Round junk mail NFT that we airdropped him. And
On Ethereum?
yeah, yeah,
Wow, that must have been like super costly gas
it
wise,
was
right?
pretty expensive. Yeah,
Because like I remember paying
yeah,
like $5, $10, sometimes $100 for like minting an NFT, and this is just like the gas cost.
yeah. No, it was expensive for sure. This is like pre. I think we did it for like 20 people. You could probably also find that OpenSea collection. It was like Party Round ads or Party Round junk mail ads. They're like clip art ads. And then yeah, for a couple other of our drops, we had NFTs. If you could invest in USDC on Party Round, you could raise in USDC. If you did invest in a startup, you could mint an NFT to kind of like certify and verify your investment on chain. So pretty ahead of its time, I think, in that sense. But yeah, like the concept for CTG is an idea that I had long before there was a crypto component, and it wasn't until like we actually sat down and started working on it that we decided that basically like building it on chain or like for crypto Twitter specifically would make it a more fun experience.
That
Nice.
totally makes sense.
I'd like to actually dive into your process of that a little bit because a lot of the time, like during the ICO phase, for example, we found, hey, there are these existing products and services that we want to put on chain. You've kind of done the opposite, right? You found a working product and found the crypto element to that later. Could you walk us through your reasoning behind doing that? And do you think this is a viable thing that we can scale outward in terms of a strategy towards adapting stuff for more crypto use cases?
Yeah, I mean, I tell every founder that I speak to in or out of crypto, it's like come up with the idea first and then decide who you build it for and where you build it. And in this case, if building it on crypto rails makes it a better or worse experience, I think if we sat down at a whiteboard and said, hey, we want to come up with a crypto game or like a viral blockchain game, like it never would have taken off or had the success that CTG had. Yeah, I mean, there were a bunch of reasons why we decided to use crypto rails for CTG. I'd say like first and foremost, I worked at an app called HQ Trivia, which was a viral mobile game show that way more viral than CTG, but had millions of people competing for real money back in like 2017, 2018. We used PayPal to pay our winners, and there were just so many pain points there. Transaction delays and withdrawal minimums, and when we kind of like sat down to build out CTG, just like I basically said to myself, like, why would I ever use anything other than crypto rails to pay our winners? It's so much easier, it's so much faster, so much just makes sense. I also we didn't fundraise for CTG and definitely had no plans to for season one. And I knew that in order for it to go viral, there had to be a big prize, but we were bootstrapping the company. So I knew that the prize had to be funded by the entries of the players. And I also just knew that I could never convince hundreds of Web2 folks or friends to spend the equivalent of a couple $100s on an entry into a novel game or use case. And I knew that crypto Twitter would be pretty ripe to do so. And then I'd say like the third and final thing is that crypto Twitter specifically seemed like the perfect place to launch a game in which you have to form tribes and alliances and eliminate each other to win a prize. Like crypto Twitter is so tribal in nature, and in like the very, very early iterations of CTG, in my mind, I was like, there'll be an ETH Maxi tribe and a Solana tribe and a Punk tribe and a Bored Ape tribe. And like, that's kind of how I envision these like different factions. Every season so far has had like a pretty wholesome ending, which I was never expecting, but I kind of thought that the tribal nature of crypto Twitter was like a good audience for this type of experience.
That's amazing. So on your first season, how did you get the funds, by the way? Like for the prize pool, did you put in your own money? Did you sell the tickets? What was the
so
what was the ticket, right? What was the prize pool?
All three seasons so far have the pot has been fully funded by the entries. So season one was built on mainnet, which again just like shows you how green I was to the space. But folks basically sent 0.1 ETH to our multisig that guaranteed their slot in the game, and then at the end of the season, we sent the funds from our multisig to the winner. Yeah, it works. And we had, I kind of just tweeted it out. I didn't necessarily think that it would take off like it did. But 410 people played season one. So the season one winner won 41 ETH. And there were a ton of like product decisions that went into like making it go viral. Basically, you could tweet that you were playing. If you referred people, you got immunity. So there were a ton of like growth hacks and viral loops that we built into it to help get the word out once we launched. But for season two, we decided to leverage NFTs for the entries, and we built season two on base, and players essentially minted an NFT that represented a spot in the game. When you got voted off, those NFTs switched from player NFTs to jury NFTs because everyone that was previously eliminated comes back on for the finale to cast their votes for the winner. It also introduced this like uniquely on-chain experience, basically of being able to transfer your NFT to someone if you're going to be away or need them to cast your vote, or if you're terrible at today's challenge and you trust your tribe mate, I can send you my NFT, you can register a score and then send it back to me at the end of the day. And then it also basically created this like deal or no deal mechanic where you could essentially like sell your NFT as you got closer to the finale and the $150,000 prize basically. And in season 3, kind of same thing. The goal was to get increasingly more on chain each season. So we actually had we built season 3 on Muni Chain. I think it was one of the first projects to launch on Muni Chain, and similar NFT mechanics for entry, but we actually made the NFTs soul bound after you were eliminated. So your jury NFT was soul bound to you, which was a nice twist. So you couldn't basically like buy up jury votes by accumulating jury NFTs heading into the finale.
I think that was really good. I played the third season. I was the blue tribe, the tribe that basically didn't vote and continued for like 3 days. It was
I can't believe every season a tribe tries to abstain, and no one's ever done it. So that was pretty cool to see. I mean, it backfires because I think it backfired because I think post merge and it became an individual game. Like I think you all got out, but
yeah, there were 2 people that surprisingly stuck it. But anyways, like that was a fun game. This is how amazing Marv the game was. Like you still remember those people who became like long-term friends and everything around that, right?
yeah.
So regarding this game, like you created this game, and I want to know from the like for the new builders coming into the space, why did you pick Ethereum first, and then thought process for Base and thought process for Unichain? What was your thought process for all three, one by one by one? And I want to know if new person is coming, what they should pick, and if your answer is Solana or something else, I want to hear them, and then just try to have a very honest conversation here.
Yeah, I would say I honestly didn't know Solana when we started building this thing. Like I was like ETH aligned in my Twitter feed and like ETH aligned in my experience. I knew of Bitcoin and ETH from those early days of buying and selling crypto on Coinbase, and I knew of ETH from minting NFTs 4 years later. And so 3-4 years after that, when we sat down and decided to build it, I just genuinely like didn't know much about Solana. And so it seemed like it was, it wasn't going to be Bitcoin, so ETH was kind of the place to do it. Yeah, like I said, I think the base was live when we launched season 1, and I didn't even couldn't understand what an L2 was, and it was like, no, we're building it on ETH, and I eventually learned that meant mainnet, and mainnet meant EVM, and there's so many things you have to learn when you're a crypto builder. I think that if I were starting over now, I probably would have made the same decision, honestly. I think that, while there's an insane amount of action and liquidity and a big user base on Solana, and I have so much fun in the trenches and on Pump and, buying and selling Sol-based meme coins now. I'm like a full-blown degen. But I do think that, CTG is uniquely an experience where only one person wins. 700 plus people don't win any money. And I think that Solana in particular is like, at least right now, very like speculation driven, very like a lot of the projects that launch on there kind of have the value prop of like, you can make a lot of money and you can make a lot of money quickly. And that kind of just like goes against what CTG is as an experience. If I were building a token launcher or a new DEX or a new, like, I don't, the honest answer is I don't know. I'm biased, but I would probably pick Unichain because it's ETH aligned with like all of the upside of the like Solana ecosystem and benefits. But there's a reason why someone like Salvino, who built a live interactive game show in Yapster, went with Solana because it is basically like a meme coin and token based experience, whereas CTG is a bit more like a reality show than a true game.
Gotcha. No, that completely makes sense. So we're just gonna take a 30-second break to let every other listener who's here just to tell them what we are doing. We are basically celebrating
Go for
10
it.
years of Ethereum. The goal here is to celebrate the builders and developers and marketers and designers and copywriters, anyone who's basically adding value to the ecosystem. We are trying to highlight those individuals, and we are asking them questions so that you can relate to them and probably get inspired with some ideas. If you have questions, put it in the comments. And John, who's one of our volunteers, who's also going to find out and put it in front of us. But and today we have Dylan. Dylan is the creator of Crypto the Game. So Dylan, one more question regarding the game. Like when you started, was it your full time, or did you have it like part time working on something and this was part time? Or was it head first? And how do you control your emotions while building something like this? Because many people struggle with that.
Yeah, it was pretty full time. I was working at that same startup we were talking about earlier, Party Round. We had rebranded. We got acqui-hired by a neobank, and I was with Ty and Brian, who were both engineers at Party Round and Capital. I am very non-technical, and basically told them I had this idea. It's been on my mind my entire life, and I think now is like a pretty good time to try to do it. And asked if they would be down to kind of like also quit their jobs and do it for like a rev share equity split. I have no idea how or why they said yes. Maybe I'm convincing, or I think they just love Survivor as well. But yeah, they are incredibly talented and fast builders and designers, and I think we all agreed to like let's basically give this 2 months. We agreed to start in November, and we launched season 1 in January, which is insane that it was built in 2 months. And season 1 wasn't as polished as it became in season 3, but we basically said we'll give it 2 months and we'll see after season 1 if this is a company, if this is a drop, if this is a side project, if this is a venture-backed idea. We didn't know, so we kind of just like went all in on it. I had just moved to California. I had just become a father. I think there's like this saying that's like, don't like moving and having a kid and starting a new job. It's like pick one of those things each time. Somehow I was doing all 3 at once. So to answer your question around like controlling emotions, I don't have an answer because I was not good at it. It was just an incredibly chaotic time in my life. But
oh my God, that is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that like because it's was an idea that was I was super passionate about, inspired by one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Was basically building the game that I always wanted to play online with my friends. I was able to act with so much conviction and make decisions very quickly because I knew what I, as a player of this particular game, would want in each situation and checkpoint. So I was just building for myself, and like that is how we were able to kind of like play test basically. And that's also some advice that I always give to builders. Is to just like build for yourself. Like if I was doing like some infra project or a trading app, or like I don't know that I would be able would be as good as good at it basically. So I hope that answers your question. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but
no, it's all about, you're absolutely right. Like it's more about like build for yourself. That basically gives it. And the follow on is around like other developers who are starting similar. Most of them struggle with user acquisition, and you mentioned about the viral loops and growth hacks at the beginning, but not developers are even like smart enough, or I would say smart or experienced enough in the marketing world to pull that off. Like, are there any some suggestions that you have, or maybe share some of your experiences of what you have seen in the market? You're like, that's super cool. Uh, if you want to share some of those.
Sure. Yeah, I would say always, I'm a marketer by trade. I've been, in and around marketing my entire career. So like, I'm definitely not like a dev by trade. And so that's kind of where I've spent like a decade plus of my career thinking about and working on. So my POV with basically anything I've ever worked on is to create something that people want to share versus feel like they have to share. So you'll remember this from playing CTG and making it as far as you did, that like there were so many checkpoints throughout the season where we essentially like prompted people to tweet. And we made it very easy where if you tapped a button and you could essentially tweet whatever we had pre-populated with copy into your feed. And yeah, it was like when you got assigned to your tribe for the first time, there was a pre-populated tweet button where you could announce your tribe and meet your tribe mates and start making some alliances. When you got to the merge, which is like a major milestone each season, we basically like encourage people to flex on Twitter that they made it that far. When we shuffled tribes, like same thing. People wanted to like tweet on that they were at that point and try to find their new tribe mates. So because of that, we were able to basically like hack the algorithm basically, which is like there were at most on day one 700 800 people tweeting this thing that they were playing the game, but because they all happened live at the same time, all of a sudden CTG was trending on Twitter with 700 tweets. So I think if we had said, which a lot of these like new consumer social apps have, that like you can't even use it until you invite 3 people, or you have to share this thing in order to get access. Like that's something that people feel like they have to share versus feel like they want to share. And that's kind of the difference mentally that I make.
CPG definitely became like a flex, right? Like I know that in the second game I didn't play, but I saw CTG everywhere, and I'm like, I got to play in the next one. And anytime I see someone playing CTG, I had a feeling of FOMO. I felt like people are like again superior than me. Again, you know exactly what I'm not trying to like say it any other way, but like, was that part of your initial design already? That hey, this is something that people will flex about, or was it just like an afterthought or a byproduct?
I didn't really think it was something people would necessarily flex. I mean, I thought that it would be like fun to flex that you got towards the end of the game, but in terms of like it being any sort of status symbol or anything like that, no, I had no idea. Like I knew when we were building it that it was so fun and so engaging, and like once people saw it and played it, they would want to organically share it. And I think that's kind of what happened. We kind of lucked out with season 1 that like a lot of like very notable people on crypto Twitter saw it and played. Board Elon and Dees and Packy McCormick and Jesse Pollock and Justin Blau all played season 1. And once I'd say like folks of that caliber are genuinely sharing their like excited feedback about something, I think then it creates this like FOMO for next time and future seasons. So honestly, again, it just kind of goes back to this idea of like I was building the game that I always wanted to play, and it's so much easier to say this in hindsight because I genuinely didn't think we'd have a couple dozen people playing season 1 at the time, but I built a game that I thought was fun, and I knew it would be fun, and the folks that saw it and played it happened to agree.
So, so Dylan, you mentioned that you're a non-technical founder, and I think that's a very interesting point you brought up because crypto's kind of reaching a stage where it isn't just about a team of 3 people in a basement building something, right? The expectations on our industry have gone up. So, could you speak to the role that non-technical teammates can play as Ethereum continues to grow? And what should teams kind of be optimizing for? Because you guys are a success story with a non-technical person sort of driving a lot of the messaging here. So, what can our viewers who may not be developers learn about the role they can play in Ethereum's future growth?
Yeah, I mean, I think almost every question so far has been about the marketing of CTG. So I think like where I kind of came to, I think being an ideas guy, I say guy in quotes because ideas guy is a saying, is like, very trendy right now. I'd say like taste is very trendy right now. But if you're non-technical, I think you need to at least have some sort of idea or some semblance of like what you want to be working on. I want to like caveat this times infinity that like CTG would still be an idea in the back of my mind if I didn't have Ty and Brian to like hear me out and see my vision and bring it to life. So I can't underscore the importance of having technical co-founders. I think like people that you trust and that you can work with on something like this is incredibly important. And while like no, go for it.
So what was your pitch to your co-founder, right? Like finding co-founder is also another struggle many people have. Finding technical co-founder is a next level struggle. So what was your pitch to your co-founder? Was it like a pitch deck you created? Was it a one pager? Was it a couple of screenshots? Or was it just like, let me buy you a lunch and I'll try to bribe you? Like what
No,
was the work?
no, I mean, so I worked with them. So like Ty was on my team at Party Round. We executed a ton of those drops together. We had a great like working relationship and friendship. And like honestly, I took a pencil and I drew. I can dig it up and I've tweeted it before, but I drew out the different states of CTG, and it looks exactly like what they ended up building and shipping. And I was like in real time drawing it and saying, okay, so well, this is where the pot will be, and this is where people will sign up, and we'll start with tribe assignments, and then we'll go towards voting, and people will type here in the chat, and like there's probably like 4 or 5 screens that I drew with a pen and pencil, and I'll dig it up and text it to you after this. But
Amazing.
I don't know, they saw it and were like, oh yeah, this is great, I love it. And I'm incredibly persistent, I think, without being annoying or desperate.
You're a friendly guy, that's why.
No, I don't know. So, whenever, every now and then in between the initial conversation and when we started to work on it, if there was an article about Survivor and how it was doing well, and I'd send it to them. If a new season was dropping, I'd ask if they're watching. I would, say things like that. And luckily and coincidentally, like I think they both were thinking about it a lot, and I kind of just went back to that idea of like, let's give it 2 months. Like I'm not asking you to commit 10 years to this thing. I'm not gonna raise venture dollars and like commit to a 7-year run in the rain basically. We were heading into the holidays. We basically like sprinted on it November and December, and it's one of those things that when you know, and like once we started like testing, and it was like, this is it.
No, perfect. Mark, before I give it to you, I just want to emphasize what he just said. Like to everyone who's trying to find technical co-founders, I know the Figma skills and those skills are very highly rated. And if you don't have it, just pen and paper. Before you talk to a developer, pen and paper, draw it on the UI, UX, whatever level that you can. It doesn't have to look good. It doesn't have to look pretty, but anything that conveys your message is so important. I've seen so many people as a developer is getting frustrated to not have that detail before committing to something. So like kudos for you, Dylan, to even think about it that way. But yeah, just wanted to emphasize that. But go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I want to get into the actual game itself because I love Survivor, and I thought the fact that you took Survivor on chain was quite interesting because it's not a crypto game, right? You've taken a real world experience, put real world people there. Crypto just happens to be one of the things that it's a price pot, yeah, but it also makes the price pot possible. Do you think that there's more ways that we can apply this template into crypto, or is this unique to what you thought of?
No, I mean, I think any traditional game show, reality show experience, like any tried and true format, basically can and should like have an on-chain extension. I think the same way that we took a Survivor format and built it for crypto Twitter, like the same can and should be said for a Shark Tank format or an Amazing Race format or a talent competition or a dating show. Or I think this thing was, yes, very inspired by Survivor, but it was like equally as inspired by things like Squid Game and Hunger Games and The Traders and this idea of many people joining and eliminating each other until the last person standing wins was not unique to Survivor and has been around forever. So it's like, I think it's really just a matter of like finding the format that like speaks to you the most if you are a game developer or game show creator. Yeah, again, just deciding if like building it on crypto rails makes it a better experience.
That's
Right.
amazing.
So is there a season 4 in the works? Can we expect that sometime soon?
He just
Yeah.
announced it, right?
No, I think it's one of those things. So I mentioned HQ Trivia, where I worked for a while, and HQ was incredible, and everyone that played it knows it and loves it. And but it was the same thing at the same exact time every single day, and I think because of that, a lot of people churned. And so we're trying to make CTG as much like a TV show as possible, and embrace seasons. So it's been almost 2 years now, and we've done 3 seasons, and I kind of feel good about that cadence. It's such a time-intensive experience, both for the players, but also for the three of us, that it's like we need some time between seasons. So I have been thinking a bit about like if we were to run it back for season 4, what that twist would be. I like this idea of like a humans versus bots twist.
Ooh.
Which everyone seems to.
Intelligence and agents.
Yeah. You don't necessarily know if the people on your tribe are real or not. But all this is to say is we have not begun season 4. I feel like we all needed a little bit of a break after season 3. I'm sure the players felt that too. But just like any great TV show that you know and love, like right when you forget about it, or like just when you remember it, it's like, oh, it's back with a new season, and that's kind of the experience I'm trying to replicate.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I have a question regarding the Uniswap acquisition, right? And the sustainability of this kind of games. Like when you created this game and you mentioned that you promised to rev share to your developer co-founders and everything around it, but all the money raised is basically becomes a bot and goes away. And so it's hard to sustain this kind of games. And that could be one of the reasons why Uniswap became a good sponsor slash partner slash like acquirer, whatever you want to say and phrase it. But like, how do you think, what is the long-term viability of a game like this? And how are you thinking about it? And how other people should think about whatever the media content that they're creating, because you also define your game as a media company. Should they also think about the sustainability aspect of it?
Yeah, so for season 1, we took 10% of the pot, so we made 4.1 ETH for the three of us, which
That's
is
good.
for the amount of time, energy, effort, and virality. It was great. We were thrilled. For season 2, we actually had 3 revenue streams because we knew season 1 was a hit. We knew it was. Basically it would do well again because everyone that played or didn't see or didn't play season 1 wanted to play season 2, but we also knew we had to pay ourselves. So we took 10% of the pot again during season 2. That was one revenue stream. We created NFTs for the entries, like I mentioned, and we built our own NFT marketplace on the site that enforced royalties. So we had the royalties from the secondary sales. That was our second revenue stream. And then the third one was ad revenue. So we had 6 sponsors during season 2 of CTG that each sponsored a challenge. We had Uniswap, which kind of like led to our relationship with them. We had Adidas, which was insane and huge and a whole nother story. We had Wormhole and Lens and Safe and POOP, and that was all just like straight high margin, full margin ad revenue that we split between the three of us.
That's solid.
Yeah.
He didn't have any sponsors. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we did a few partnerships. We partnered with OpenSea as the exclusive marketplace for the NFTs. We partnered with Farcaster and did a custom immunity challenge for Farcaster for season 3. We partnered with Boys Club to create like an official companion podcast. So because we did get acquired and we have a salary, it wasn't as important to try to like sell sponsorships. So we aimed for and tried to get basically partners and partnerships that like enhance the experience for the players versus just like slapping logos on challenges basically.
And do you think that's the model that's going to continue?
Yeah, I think what excited us about joining Uniswap was not only their like the incredible brand and team that's like created such great products, but we had a couple options, and one was almost like exclusively focused on CTG, where we had to churn out, season after season, and we would basically only be working on CTG. One option was more of like an acqui-hire situation where we would just serve as this like in-house on-chain creative studio, doing anything and everything but CTG. And the opportunity at Uniswap was really the best of both worlds, in the sense that they saw, loved, and supported CTG and encouraged us to build season 3 and do it all in house. But then we also get to kind of like flex our muscle and scratch our creative itch by working on all of like the brand marketing activations at Uniswap as well. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Well, like, if anything, if it's a consolation prize or anything, but like that's how I came to know about. Oh, Chain is live and functional,
Exactly.
and
Amazing.
the whole Unichain Explorer because of the game. And I'm like, I did not know because you
Oh,
hit the
great.
type and everything there.
So it worked. Yeah. No, I think it was a great marketing moment for Unichain for sure.
Amazing. Marv, if you have anything, please jump in. Otherwise, yeah, I'll roll to the next one.
I think you're on mute,
Oh,
Mark.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Hey, I just found it was an absolute lesson for all of us marketers just to see how you harness this attention. And I think you also chose exactly the right space, the right messaging. Like you optimize for the attention, the way attention is fostered in crypto, you optimize for that. And I found that that was just a display of a fantastic depth of insight into how this market works. So if you have any tips for folks to kind of capitalize on this virality, like how can someone sort of replicate this sort of attention sphere that you created if they're going to launch their own sort of product? Nothing
Yeah.
proprietary unless it is, of course.
No. I don't even think there was any secret sauce. Like I think we just genuinely built the game that I always wanted to play as a kid, and I knew it was fun. And obviously there were those kind of like growth hacks and viral loops built into it. But the kind of like seasonality aspect of it was also like very, in addition to not wanting people to burn out, I also am just like very acutely aware of the attention span of crypto Twitter in particular. And I knew that, if we kind of like ran back season 2 right after season 1, like people would get over it and kind of move on to the next thing. So we do consciously and intentionally like space out our seasons. But you could win real money, and like that is a huge like carrot that I think like crypto Twitter in particular is like interested in. But yeah, it's also incredibly collaborative, and you got basically like in-game advantages by talking about it with others and sharing it. And it is a game that is very social by nature, and I think that led to the attention that it received.
That's super cool. So again, I'm just gonna do one other plug for what we are trying to do. For anyone who's listening, we are trying to celebrate 10 years of Ethereum. Ethereum is turning 10 at the end of July, and we are celebrating each and every builder, each and every creator. And today we have Dylan, who is the creator of Crypto the Game. I think, like, where do you compare yourself, like, with other games in crypto, or do you think you're a different path on yourself? Oh
I
yeah,
don't,
okay.
yeah, no, I don't think CTG is a game at all. I am like, for a gaming founder, like I'm not a gamer at all. I'm much more of like a TV buff and a game show and reality show enthusiast. So I think Crypto the Game is more of a game show than a video game. So I'd say it's more in the same vein of as HQ Trivia and Yapster to a certain extent. But it's more of like emerging media, if I were to like put a category on it, versus like blockchain gaming or anything like that.
Fair, fair. So with that in mind, what is the missing piece like that will allow you to 10x crypto the game or 100x crypto the game right now? Is it the audience? Is it the funding? Is it marketing? Is it tech? Like, what are the missing pieces right now that will allow you to go to the next level altogether.
Yeah, I don't. It's interesting because I don't know that I necessarily want to 10x the number of players each season. I think it would be a terrible experience for everyone if all of a sudden you had 700 people on your tribe from day one and you were trying to figure out who you were randomly eliminating each night out of hundreds or thousands of people. So, we did cap entries for season two, and I don't necessarily know that I want to 10x the audience. Having said that, I think we can make it a much more compelling spectator experience for those that are not playing. There is something we still haven't quite cracked, which is the fact that on a show like Survivor, if you're watching, you can also impact the results. But for CTG, because it is 100% live, technically you could log out and watch what's happening or see who's being eliminated, and that could then you could log back in and it could influence your decision. So I don't quite know the answer to making it a more compelling spectator experience while simultaneously not impacting the results, basically. But we did this companion podcast with Boys Club. They went live on Twitter after every voting period, or sometimes during the voting periods, and that got upwards of 10,000 viewers per episode, and it's pretty crazy to see. So I think just like any good reality show, CTG is full of drama and villain arcs and backstabbings and insane stories that are human stories and real stories and hurt feelings. And my goal is to just make that as much of a spectacle as possible.
Do you feel, and again, I'm just now I'm in the brainstorming mode for some reason, but do you see making it probably 70 or 80 players, but instead of, because I played it and I had full-time job and it was chaotic to say the least. Because again, you're trying to survive in the game at the same time. People underestimate how much time you really need in order to survive in the game. You literally are spending 4 to 5 hours a day just to be in the game. Otherwise, if you're stale, you're gonna get knocked out easily. So for those kind of things, do you see hey, what if there are literally 70 or 80 players recruited where you just lock them up for 1 week, but now you're basically choreographing the situations, not the outputs or the process, but hey, you have to be a 1 hour online, that's recorded, and that becomes a viewership, something like that.
Yeah, you basically cast 30 people and send them to an island. No, I'm joking.
Island.
I don't know. I think I never wanted to do any sort of rules or requirements about how to play this thing, because I think Survivor is a show that I've always wanted to go on. I apply every season, never got a call back, and I hate that. It's a game, it's a game and a format that anyone should be able to play if they want. And I hate that there's a casting director somewhere that's basically handpicking who gets to experience it. So one of the main reasons behind CTG was just creating a version of Survivor that anyone could play online with their friends. And our season 1 winner was a guy by the name of MFL on Twitter. He lives in rural Japan, doesn't speak a word of English. Someone like that never could have been cast on a show like Survivor. Not only did he play CTG, but he won CTG. And this idea of basically democratizing reality show formats for everyone is something that really excites me. So I don't necessarily want to put too many restrictions and rules around who can and should play. Having said all of that, I never in a million years thought that it would balloon into this 24/7 reality show. I genuinely thought people would log in the morning, register a score on the challenge. Maybe they had an alliance with a friend or someone that they recognized from Twitter or worked with, and then they just logged back in that night to cast their vote. But I don't know. Crypto Twitter in particular.
What happened instead? 12 o'clock, the challenges are launched, and then the teams get together in Telegram, and some 5 or 6 people take lead, and they just play the game.
That is self-inflicted.
Hours, 5 hours, and then after 5 hours, you get half an hour break because everyone's need to do their shit, and after that they get together again online. to figure out who to cast out if they didn't win, right? So it's all kind of craziness.
Yeah, no, that's all self-inflicted.
It's a meaningful prize pool. I think there should be a little bit of work for it for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So when are we getting Mr. Beast on chain?
I think CTG has been shown to Mr. Beast by a few mutuals, so I don't know.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened there or where it's at, but it would be very fun.
So again, I want to dig deep into this because again, I'm a Mr. Beast fan. At the same time, I think that level of pedigree coming on chain for something like this, what problems needs to be solved to create an on-chain rail for creator like Mr. Beast to build like crypto the game or Mr.
Yeah.
Beast chapters, but on chain?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that crypto is still like a dirty word to those outside of the industry. And, all of the headlines that we see are about rug pulls and fraud trials and life sentences. And like, no one, not no one, but like very few people are sharing the success stories and the benefits of building on chain. And, it's 10 years of Ethereum, but like, it's think back to year 10 of the internet and even beyond that of everyone's thinking it was a fad and not necessarily going to stay. So I do think that as the UI and the UX improves and folks like Privy are kind of like abstracting all of the like pain points of crypto from the login flows and the wallet creations and things like that. Eventually, I think it's just going to feel like the internet and Mr. Beast launching on chain and using someone like Privy instead of signing in with whatever else they would use could accomplish all of the goals that CTG set out to accomplish, but without kind of like the stigma. I just still think it's very early.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, look, I think I'm done all the questions. Again, I can keep it like going, but I think we just want to give a couple of minutes to anyone else or Marv, or if anything, any departing advice that you have, Dylan.
No, this was great. Thanks so much for having me.
Dude, thank you so much for jumping in. Marv, outro, please.
Yeah. No, but I really like how, you've prioritized keeping this open. That's so much in line with the crypto ethos. Anyone can participate in that whole thing you said about the casting director versus how we're keeping this open. I think this really speaks to the kind of world that we want to create. Less, like fewer walls, less boundaries, and just more expression. So thank you so much for showing us what can be possible on these crypto rails. If you get a little bit of foresight and a little bit of, cross industry experience and bringing it into crypto. So yeah, thanks so much for this, and I think we're going to be watching Crypto the Game very, very closely for when your Twitter account starts bursting to life again with more news on season 4.
I know, I'm like craving the dopamine. It's like in
Oh, yeah.
between seasons, there's always a lull in my engagement. Okay, cool. Yeah, and we'll do it again for the 15th.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, Dylan. Really appreciate it. If anything we can do for you, don't be a stranger.
Yeah. Talk soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Catch you soon.
Right.
Bye-bye.